Similar to what I told you about emotion, you might say, okay, Paul, that's great, but there's nothing surprising in the story, this particular story I'm working on, or there are no surprises in any of my stories. Can I just skip that? You know, I've got the hero and the villain and the struggle, and mine's even got emotion in it, so am I good enough? Well, yeah, if you want a good enough story, but if you want a great story, you need a surprise in it. And just like I told you with the, don't mess with Texas example, there is a very simple technique that you can use to take a story that has no surprise and make a surprise out of it. Okay, so I'm just going to give you, here's an example of that being done. So young James, young boy, 9 years old, he's in the kitchen with his mom and his mom's sister. Mom and Auntie are having tea at the table. While Mom and Auntie are having tea at the table, James is at the stove watching the tea kettle boil. And he is just fascinated with it. He's watching the steam come out the top, and he's got a little spoon, and he's holding it up there and watching the jet of steam run into the spoon and condense into little droplets of water and run down the spoon and drip into a cup. And he's just watching this cycle go over and over and over again. He's just fascinated by it. Well, 10 or 15 minutes of that, and his mom finally just yells at him. She's like, James, go do your homework. Right? Go outside and play. Go read a book. Do something. Right? Aren't you ashamed of yourself the way you're just wasting your time here? Fortunately, young James was undaunted by his mother's admonition, because 20 years later, at the age of 29, and in the year 1765, James Watt reinvented the steam engine, ushering in the Industrial Revolution that we, of course, all benefit from today. Okay? Now, the first time I heard that story, I read it in a book. And the title of the book was James Watt. And it was a biography about the guy that invented the steam engine by Andrew Carnegie, published in 1905. It was no surprise to me that the story about the kid named James in the kitchen was about James Watt. But to you, when you just heard it, unless you're a history buff, were surprised by that. And why were you surprised by that? Because I didn't tell you his last name until the end of the story. All I did was I took one vital piece of information that's important and that normally would have been delivered at the beginning of the story, and I didn't give it to you until the end of the story. Right? Presto. Surprise ending. Right? It's that simple. You can do that with almost any story.